right, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for today's info session on life science careers in the Richmond region. I hope all of the students who are joining us today have had a successful end to their semester, and congratulations to any 2021 graduates who are joining us today. We're so happy that everyone is here to hear about one of Richmond's most exciting industries, exciting and growing, a lot of growth and a lot of really cool innovation going on throughout the region. So we're really excited for this main discussion with some of the industry's leaders and experts here. But before we get started, I did want to give you guys a quick introduction to RVA Now, what we're about, and
I think Allison has frozen up a little bit. I'm going to jump in here while she unfreezes. I'm Beth Weisbrod. I'm the director of the RVA program. Okay, Allison, you froze. So
oh, geez. Oh, sorry. Am I back now?
You're back.
Oh, okay. All right. I apologize for I'm having a little bit of internet instability today, but hopefully we can get through it. Yeah, RVA Now. How far did I get?
You teed this up, so yeah.
Cool. Okay. So RVA Now is a new program of Chamber RVA aimed at introducing college students, young professionals, and anybody who's interested to the Richmond region and why it should be #1 on your list of places to work, live, play, and engage. We do this in part through events like this one, where we introduce you to different industries, employers, and opportunities to work or engage in the region. And the people who are already here, hearing the stories of why they're in Richmond and what their paths were. I'd like to also take this opportunity to announce a very exciting thing. Our website has just been launched. It's rvanow.org. And this is what we want to be a go-to hub for all of the resources to really complete your picture of what it's like to be in Richmond, and it's all happening in RVA Now. So here you can see we have a page about working in RVA Now, where we'll have featured employers who want you to know about their culture and their opportunities, as well as a regional job board that's tailored to entry-level positions and positions that are really exciting to find in the Richmond region. We also have other cool resources that we're really excited about, like a cost of living calculator that enables you to really envision what it will be like to live in Richmond, as well as a neighborhood guide that introduces you to a great, diverse, exciting array of neighborhoods that we have here. And that's a really fun thing. We really recommend you that just go to the website and poke around and just learn more. And we have more features coming, like volunteer opportunities and event calendars to really make sure that we're painting that full picture of life in RVA. And our goal is to really introduce people to the new Richmond, the real Richmond. I think we know that a lot of people have what maybe outdated perceptions of Richmond and the business community here. And we really want to make sure that this new generation is excited and well-informed about what it's like to be in Richmond. We'll throw this at the end again, but there's lots of ways to contact us and get involved. We have a newsletter that comes out every other week. We have some Instagram live conversations that are sort of more casual versions of these kinds of events. And we have lots of different programs coming up. So we're really excited, and info sessions that we did in the past that you can find on our YouTube account. So we'll definitely show this back up again, and follow us to keep abreast of all the different opportunities. And we are really excited for today and really glad that you joined us. And as a thank you, we'll be sending out a bonus resource that goes a deeper dive into the data about who's hiring, what the trends are, and what the opportunities are in the region from a database. So we are, again, really thankful for you to join us today and excited to dive into the discussion. Before we get started, I would like to introduce John Newby, who will be sharing a few remarks. John is the CEO at Virginia Bio, which is a statewide nonprofit trade association for the life science industry. approximately 300 entities spanning biopharmaceuticals, medical devices, medtech, diagnostics, digital health, bioinformatics, agriculture, and industrial bio and related fields that are based in Virginia, mainly clustered around research universities and medical institutions. And they do a lot of great work in both the region and the state. And we have him here today to talk about the importance of these types of events and where he sees the industry's going.
Thanks, Allison. I appreciate it. And really good to see so many folks join us today. Again, I'm John Newby. I'm here at Virginia Bio. Our main mission here is to support folks like you who are looking to stay in our state, in our industries in Virginia, feed all that great talent and brain power that you've achieved over the years and put it to great use with our companies, such as the 3 companies we have here with us today. Biotech is really important to Virginia, and these are numbers you may or may not be familiar with. It's an $8 billion industry here in Virginia, one of the largest sectors in Virginia. It's one of the top 7 industries in Virginia that the Commonwealth itself has cited as needing specific support strategically for our state and indeed for our country. It employs over 24,000 people, and you're going to hear from 3 great employers today who will hopefully convince you to stay and perhaps even join them as they execute their own missions. Okay, so I'm going to dial back from Virginia and talk about this region. Virginia Bio is based here, although we're a statewide entity. We are based in Richmond. I live in Richmond, so I have a little bit of a particular favoritism to the region for various reasons. Robust scientific community here in the greater Richmond area, and by Richmond I mean Petersburg, Colonial Heights, Richmond, places out west in Rackham County, the surrounding counties. Great corporate scientific community with such as our guests, Phlow, Civica Rx, and GSK, and other companies, Fortune 500 companies, Altria, other great growing companies, Genetworks, Kaleo in our industry. Lots of great academic and research contacts, particularly geared around what's happening at VCU and all the things that are spinning out of there on the entrepreneurial space. A real exciting variety of biotech, including medical devices, diagnostics, one of the largest consumer healthcare activities in the world, right here with GSK, and our growing focus with advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing at Phlow and Civica and their partner, Ampac Fine Chemicals, right here in the greater Richmond area. Jobs, jobs, jobs. That's why you're here on the call with us today. Lots of jobs here in the Richmond area. My last count, just back of the envelope, well north of 500 available jobs in the biotech industry, right here in this region. And you're going to hear about some of them today. And finally, it's a great place to live. Very central to everything. All the things you've heard about Richmond that are important to quality of life are true. Close to the beach, close to the mountains, close to DC, all days trips, and then Richmond itself is really a big small town, and hopefully you'll get a chance to enjoy it as a part of our community. So with that, I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank our 3 great companies in our industry in this region for joining us, and I'll toss it back to you, Allison. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, John. We're really excited to talk to our panelists today, and thank you so much for that great intro to the industry in the region. So now I will introduce our panelists one at a time and give them an opportunity to, introduce themselves briefly, but also talk about their companies and their missions. So we will start, just choosing Kipton Courier, who is the Director of Talent and Culture at Phlow Corporation, which marks her 7th multi-million-dollar entrepreneurial initiative. So we're really excited to have her and, listen to her experiences and what she does at Phlow. So go ahead, Kipton.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here today. And thank you for the invitation. And I'm just so excited to hear from the panelists and hear questions from the audience as well. I grew up in the Richmond area and I left for 18 years and then I returned about 4 years ago, and it's a different Richmond. I love it. My husband and I have grown to love the area. So I started off my career in Manhattan real estate. I made a pivot to healthcare about a decade ago, looking for significance and impact and wanting to be of service in my career. This idea of Phlow was really born, almost around 2 years ago. And Dr. Frank Gupton with VCU Medicines for All Dr. Eric Edwards, who was a co-founder of Kaleo, started talking about this concept of ending essential medicine shortages. And they started talking to people, and it just grew, and it was born into a public benefit corporation in January of 2020. Our mission is to reliably supply affordable, high quality essential medicines through US-based advanced manufacturing processes. We were in the news a lot last year with a big kind of announcement for this huge $354 million government contract. And that is, we are the tip of a consortia with a group of partners, including Civica Rx, and Chris is on the line with us as well. We are all looking to support our country. And, you know, I'll say one quick story and then pass it along, but this was a surprise to me. You know, I always had the expectation as a citizen of the United States, if I were to get into a car accident or something horrible would happen when I went to the emergency room or the hospital, I would have every essential medicine there that I needed to save my life. And that actually is not true. We deal with medicine shortages every single day in the United States, and we think it's a matter of national security. And so I'm just really happy to be here, and I thank you for having me on the panel.
Thank you so much, Kipton. We're so happy that you're here today. Next, I'd like to introduce Chris Wheeling, who is a strategic thinking HR leader for global life sciences firms. Most recently, he is currently the Vice President for Human Resources at Civica Rx, which Kipton just referenced. So Chris, if you'd like to introduce who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, I feel already connected to everybody on the call because you want a career in life sciences, and what a great place to be, because you're making an impact bigger than yourselves. We have a kind of a saying at Civica. When I started, we said we're going to deliver what's in the best interests of patients. And I think that when our career, we get the opportunity to do that. At Bayer Healthcare, I worked and we manufactured a drug called Cogenate. Well, if you're a young boy with hemophilia, you need Cogenate to infuse daily, and you can live a normal life, and it's great. So early on, I formed that connection with patients and really understood speaking with people, speaking with the patients you impact, to understand the impact that you're having. Most recently, I worked for AstraZeneca, and we manufactured a drug called Lynparza. Well, Lynparza is used if you have pancreatic cancer. You go from having a death sentence, basically, to living 15 months. So talking to people and that connection you're having to people is huge. Now, at Civica, I think that I'm having potentially the biggest impact on patients that I've had in my career, because we're changing a business model. Where basically this idea of Civica was born out of a conversation with a person named Dan Lilliquist, who worked for Intermountain Health, and Martin Van Trieste, who was in the process of what he says he was in the process of failing a retirement. He had worked at Amgen, Novartis. I'd worked with him at Bayer Healthcare for a number of years, and he had recently retired, and he was speaking to organizations about the importance of manufacturing medicines in the US, and specifically generic medicines were a problem because it was, a lot of them were manufactured in China and India, and the efficacy, the quality of it was questionable. And it was impacting patients in the US. It was impacting doctors who had to take time away from trying to prescribe a generic, dependable medicine. Well, I can't really depend on that medicine. What should I prescribe? Something that I really didn't dawn on me in terms of the time that takes away from patient care. So Dan and Martin were talking in 2018, and Dan said, I've got this idea that if I pulled together a group of hospitals and looked at the people who have generic medicine manufacturing capacity, and I figured out a make or buy decision for those hospitals, I could generate a pool of generic medicines in the US that we could use. There's always 100 to 200 generic medicines that are in shortage in the US, chronic shortages. It's been this way for years. And so Martin said, yeah, I can find the people for you. I've worked with these people. They'll be willing to work with such a great project. And then I'll find the CEO for you. And Dan said, no, Martin, I want you to be the CEO. And Martin, argued with him, and he finally said, yeah, I'll do it on two conditions. Number one, I'm going to handpick the team from pharma people that I've worked with before. And number two, I'll do it for $1 a year. And what that's done is that's created a lot of goodwill for manufacturing companies to want to work with us. They have unused manufacturing capacity. If they manufacture generic medicines for us, their variable costs go down. They don't get rich, but they're very pleased to go to their board of directors and say, we're working with Civica to address a chronic problem with generic medicines. So this is 2018 and 2019. And then we always said at Civica, if we ever had a drug shortage in the nation, we'd find out if this business model really worked. And then COVID happened. And we got the opportunity to work with a number of great partners like Phlow. For example, we were awarded a government contract to build a $100 million sterile fill greenfield facility in Petersburg, Virginia. We broke ground a couple months ago and making steady progress in that. That will go live at the end of 2022. In 2023, it'll start. That'll be about 200 jobs there in Petersburg. So very exciting to be part of this. We've gone from our first year providing 10 generic medicines. By the end of this year, we'll be producing 53 medicines. So it's very exciting to impact patient health. And annually, the Civica Petersburg plant will help 50 million patients a year annually with the medicine it produces when we're up and running. So it's really exciting not only to be part of this and deliver for patients, but also be a part of changing a business model and a different way of looking at it. So that's a little bit of overview of Civica. Hope that was helpful, and look forward to question and answers. Let's see.
Right. Okay, sorry, I just, yep, I'm here. Sorry, so next and finally we have Niels Algren, who has been in the pharmaceutical industry for 25 years and has spent the last 8 years developing consumer healthcare products here in Richmond at GSK, which has been here for, I think, a little bit longer than the other two. So it's sort of a different outlook. He's currently the VP for US Innovation and Development at GSK Consumer Healthcare, and is helping build the Richmond facility into their global R&D Center of Excellence. So Niels, take it away.
All right, thanks, Allison, and thank you to all the students for joining us today. My name is Niels. I work at GSK Richmond, and if you're not familiar with GSK, we're a global pharmaceutical company that is made up of two divisions. We have an RX Pharma division, and we have a consumer healthcare division. And the connection to Richmond is that about 2 years ago, GSK and Pfizer Consumer Healthcare, who has a long established history in Richmond, as Allison alluded to, merged together. And I'm excited to announce that the decision was made that GSK Richmond would be the global R&D Center of Excellence for the consumer division going forward. So we are growing, we are expanding capabilities. We've hired about 150 people over the last 18 months. The future is bright for Richmond. We picked Richmond for a reason, a combination of great place to live, great place to work, good cost of living, but access to wonderful Virginia school systems. And we recruit heavily from the local schools and from the region, really. So I'm looking forward to, you may not know GSK, but in the consumer division, you certainly know our brands. My team is directly accountable for developing products for Advil, for Centrum, for Robitussin, Emergency, Chapstick. All of those brands are developed in Richmond and sold throughout the world.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here. Now we'll jump into the discussion more. And at any time, if anybody has any questions for any of the panelists specifically or more general, please drop them in the chat. You can either just send them to everyone, or you can send them specifically to me and I will ask them. But first, we've talked about this a little bit already about the growth that the Richmond region is seeing, but I'd love to hear everyone here's perspective on the growth you've seen in the industry in the past few years and what makes, life sciences and biotech appealing to work in right now in Richmond. And I'll sort of do the same round robin approach. Start with maybe Kipton at Phlow.
I'll be happy to be at the end of the next round. That's a great question, Allison. And, I always tell the starfish story. I worked for a woman who would talk about the starfish story. I don't know if anyone's ever heard it, but there's a story of someone's walking on the beach and there are thousands of starfish washed up on the beach, and someone's throwing them in one by one. And another individual walks up and says, you know, you're never going to get all the starfish back in the ocean. There are too many. And the person turns and goes, well, I just helped this one starfish. And you know, I'm not a one starfish person. I want to throw all the starfish back into the ocean, and I'm into designing systems and organizations to be able to do that. And so, you know, what Chris alluded to and what we've been talking about is the significance and the impact that you can make in your career in life sciences. And I think what's really neat is in the Richmond area, we are just growing. We are growing, and this is the ground floor. And I think it's just, when I was getting my MBA, I remember someone telling me, if you get asked to get on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat you're sitting in. And so this is a real opportunity for students in the area to get on the ground floor of something very unique and fun and creative, where you can also be of service in your life. You know, at Phlow, we value innovation, lifelong learning, servant leadership. Integrity is our core foundation, and also collaboration. And, you know, I just think it would be exciting. When I think about getting a job at Phlow or at Civica, it's, you know, it's like winning the lottery to get a job at one of these places. It's just a really unique opportunity to be on the ground floor of building something and learning together and collaborating and innovating. And so, you know, my suggestion to any students here is don't care what seat on the rocket ship that you get on, just find a seat somehow. And internships are a great way to do that. As you know, we can talk more about that later, but thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And we'll definitely talk about internships in a little bit. And Chris, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's interesting is when you think about Richmond as a potential area for biotech, we have companies that are developing jobs we're going to be establishing once the AMPAC Phlow Civica campus is fully mature. You'll have 600 jobs on that campus, whereas today you have about 50, 60 jobs. So it's a really exciting time to be in this place. And Richmond's great. You know, a lot of the biotech pharma jobs you're going to see in San Francisco, New Jersey, New York, San Diego, high cost of living areas. And so to be in a city, an area like Richmond that has a lot of great colleges, a lot of quality of life, at a reasonable affordability also is really a cool place to be.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And Niels, if anything
Yeah,
else?
just a couple of builds. I think well stated. I think, you know, life sciences offer such a broad range of roles, right? It's not only about saving lives, it's about making people more comfortable when they're sick. There are all kinds of career opportunities, and there are multidisciplinary opportunities at any given time. So I think the point of, you know, you don't have to necessarily get a job directly in what your degree was in is a valid point, and you'll always have the opportunity to grow and diversify that experience going forward. And the second point I would make is, look, we're committed to making Richmond a hub for biotechnology, right? And by doing that, we're really creating an ecosystem. It's not just about our individual companies. It's about the marriage of the companies and the academic institutions and getting a critical mass so that people want to be here to be part of something bigger in biotechnology.
Wow, I'd love to hear that. That is, you know, and again, it's so cool to see that becoming something. And we talk a lot about changing perceptions of Richmond, and maybe that's not the first thing that comes to people's mind. They don't think of this as being, you know, that type of a hub. So we're glad to be able to promote that and to really, you know, stir up some excitement about that. And, you know, I wanted to actually follow up with something that Chris said about those 600 jobs on that new Civica AMPAC Phlow campus down in Petersburg. You know, we wanted to talk about what jobs and opportunities and hiring trends that you guys see, and that feels like a natural place to start. You know, what's the timeline for that, and what types of opportunities are included in those 600 jobs? That's a good number to hear. So I'd love to hear more about that. if, I don't know if Chris wanted to chime in there or Kipton.
Chris, you want to
whichever
take
one.
the lead and I'll
Yeah.
fill in?
Yeah, it really runs the gamut. I think that when you're coming out of college and you're looking to play a part in this, you're looking at entry-level jobs where you can do a lot of variety of things, whether it's working as a compounder in putting together medicine, whether you're in quality control in the labs, whether you go in supply chain, looking at the supply chain of things. When you go to companies, the thing that's going to be cool about Richmond is, it's attracted us. It's attracted companies that are saying, yeah, it's a really strong college, great footprint, but when it'll attract more companies like us that are growing. And a growing company, you're going to be able to go in and do a number of different things. I'm going to steal Kipton's rocket ship. That was great. We've been doing something a little less poetic. We've said, everybody's going to wear different hats, and sometimes a hat might not fit. But it may be painful, but that's where growth happens, right? You get an opportunity to do a lot of different kinds of things in an area. Now, ours is going to be pharma manufacturing. So every time you do something, you'll probably have a bunny suit on with a couple of layers of protective. And, you'll say, yeah, I did this function, and you'll document it, and somebody will be behind you and say, I verified that you did that. So it's a pharma manufacturing environment where you're comfortable with precision and attention to detail, but also innovative thinking. Is this the right way to design this process or this workflow? So you'll have an opportunity to provide input at that when you're in a startup environment.
Here, ready?
Mhm.
Pick up that piece of cardboard, but you need it to go
1 second. I got. Oh, there we go. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
No, that's it. I was just out.
Oh, okay.
Tail end of what I was saying.
Oh, cool. All right.
And I would just, add to that, Chris, the multiple hats, the getting on the rocket ship. When I think about our hiring needs, so we just hired our 34th employee. We'll hire probably an additional 20 employees this year. And we have a lot of strategic critical decisions to make in this year, and then which will, show the trajectory of where Phlow is going and our needs. But when I think about the three most basic kind of, not basic, but the most straightforward paths into a new company that's highly innovative and changing, I have three things that come to mind. So customer service excellence. We'll need people in our commercial team providing customer service, data and analytics that can fit into kind of any of our functional areas. And then also project management and the importance of, a PMP on a resume means a lot. The experience of a PMP means a lot as well. I didn't really, understand that concept when, I don't know how long PMPs have been around, but when I was in college, I don't know if there was a certification for a project manager, but I would say, and then also just being open. And so I'll give a perfect example. We had 4 openings for interns this summer, and our data and analytics internship position had 300 plus resumes. It just, it's a buzzword. It's really popular. We had a few other internship positions. One was for government initiatives. And, when I was in college, I'm not quite sure I would know what government initiatives meant, but I would just suggest, if you want to get into a company and you're interested in learning and willing to do what it takes and wear multiple hats and you want to get on the rocket ship, apply to all of them, or, express interest in something that you might not completely understand, because, the stats are a lot better. I think we only had 20 people apply to that government initiatives internship. And that would have been a great way to kind of get in the door and, show your hard work, show your competencies. But I would just say be open. So the government initiatives position would have had data analytics a component in it. And it's just not as competitive.
That's great advice. I like that, applying to everything. I think some people have the impression that, if I apply for, all of these open internship opportunities or job opportunities, it'll reflect badly. But I think that that's something that shows, initiative, and whatever opportunity comes to you is going to be beneficial. So that's think that's great advice.
Chris
Yeah.
might have a different opinion about that. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
early care professionals are a little different. I would see it as a demonstration of I really want to be at Phlow,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And a thoughtful cover letter goes a long way.
Right. Definitely. And Niels, I know that GSK is doing a lot of hiring. I don't know if you wanted to speak to
Sure, I'd be
that.
happy
Yeah.
to. I mean, obviously, I'll put the plug in that Richmond's a great place to raise a family, as you have down this earth. Look, GSK, it's an exciting time, and we have all kinds of roles. We have an extensive internship program. Every summer, we take interns from the local colleges. That was thrown a little bit off with access to the facility in COVID, but we expect that to be back up and running next year. We're actively looking for disciplines from project management to analytical sciences to process engineers, formulation chemists and chemical engineers, broad base of backgrounds that we're looking for. But I mean, I think what makes Richmond special is the culture and the collaboration. And what I love about consumer healthcare versus conventional RX pharmaceuticals is the marriage of science and creativity, and having to know and understand what the consumer needs from your product. You're not out there saving a life, you're making their life more comfortable, during a tough time, whether they have a headache or whether they have a cold or some other ailment. You're making their day-to-day life different. And that's a different mindset than saving a life, but it does allow for a lot of collaboration cross-functionally with the business team and with the consumer to really understand what type of product will satisfy the consumer. And I think that's part of what I really love, and part of what makes the GSK site in Richmond special.
Awesome. And now that we're sort of on the subject of internships, sort of wanted to, talk a little bit more about what students and young graduates can do to make themselves competitive and really explore their options. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about internships, but also any other advice that you guys have for students maybe earlier in their college careers, maybe not quite at the internship level yet, but deciding what path to go on and making these connections with companies and exploring their options. But first, I did want to ask, we had a question from the audience about internships, about how often internships are turned into full-time offers. And Niels, since you're just
Sure.
mentioned the internship program, I don't know if you wanted to start.
Yeah, I don't have the percentages here, but
Right.
I kind of ran the internship numbers before we had this meeting. We traditionally have between 10 and 20 interns per summer. They tend to be between your sophomore and junior and senior years of college. What I would say that's 3 to 4 months. And what we've seen is I know of 8 people on my team or on my adjacent team in the building that have hired people that started as an internship. We also have some contracting positions that come up that become permanent positions as well. But I think what the internships allow you to do, particularly if you enjoy the culture, is it gives you a leg up to understand how the business works, make some connections. And if you're interested in pursuing GSK as a career, I think that it definitely gives you a foot forward, because it gives you a comfort level and an experience with the hiring managers and the teams that you'll be working on what your capabilities are. So I think that there's definitely an advantage to taking an internship. And if you enjoy that internship, express an interest when you leave, that once you graduate, you would be interested in joining. And I think that will go a long way, right? It won't do you any good if you don't express the interest and don't ask. And there's no guarantee that there'll be a suitable role available, but I've had people that come in as an analytical intern that turn into formulation scientists because that's the role that was available, and they're very happy with that. So that definitely would encourage you to go through the route to try to pursue an internship. And I think it does give you a leg up versus, a complete unknown in the hiring process, because you at least have that blurb on your resume and you have some experience with some of the products that we develop.
Definitely. And Kipton and Chris, did you have anything to add about that?
Sure. I think I'll approach it a little bit differently. I think when you are all life science students getting a great degree, So you will be coveted by employers who are looking to do internships. Eventually I will be, probably not this summer, maybe a little bit next year, maybe the more 2023. And I'll just tell you what I would be looking for is, what do I be working on? Will it be meaningful? And what is your internship plan? A well thought out year over year plan, so you can get not only a good project you can sink your teeth in and have a deliverable at the end of this. When I've done internships at my other companies like Novartis in Raleigh, North Carolina, we had posters at the end of the intern presentations where people spoke to everybody. Everybody had a poster and they talk about what their deliverable was. They knew their first week what their poster would look like 3 or 4 months later. And so it's a very meaty project that you're going to be wanting, so you can really have a meaningful experience. I think the other thing that I will be introducing that I feel really strongly is we had a lot of success having interns targeting maybe people in sophomore, junior year and saying, our goal is for you to come back next year. We even doubled the super intern program. We got little Superman shirts and gave it out to people when they started. But the goal is, why, if we had an intern that was working for us for 3 straight summers, do you think that we would hire that person? Probably, absolutely, right? And if they have a variety of things that they've done for us over a 3-year period, it's not a question if we can afford to hire them. It's how could we afford not to hire them after 3 summers of interns? And so that's something we'll be introducing down the road. But I think for all of you, just know that you're going to be coveted. You have great skills. Just know that when you're getting that experience, it's something that's going to be really meaningful to you, that you're going to get a lot out of.
And I would just add, so some of us at Phlow don't prefer the term startup. So we say we're early stage venture, but we have a lot of startup kind of characteristics. And last summer we hired 4 interns. We barely had a process. We didn't have a handbook. We were, flying by the seat of our pants. And I'll never forget, one intern came up to me and said, Kipton, is it okay that I just kind of like work and do my own thing? And like, it doesn't feel like there are any rules here. Like there's no, he doesn't have to ask permission. He just dives in and produces value for the organization. And I said, oh yeah, that's exactly what we need. So someone, if you're interested in kind of joining an early stage organization, it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and really just like looking to add value to the organization. So asking leaders, how can I help you? Is there a project I can take off your hands? Is there something I need to research? And just demonstrating that value. Chris and I talked about that before. In an early stage company, it's how do you demonstrate your value, and producing high quality work product, being able to work on your own. These are important things. And statistics wise, we don't have a huge sample pool, but last summer we had 4 interns. 3 of them are still with us today. 2 were hired full time. One, he was completing his MBA and unfortunately is leaving us for IBM, but he ended up interning with us and working with us his final year of his MBA. This summer we'll take on 4 interns. And we are pretty tight with our workforce planning. And so if there is a position in the organization, we would absolutely welcome them applying to the position. But, I've also seen it happen in organizations where they can't afford to let you go just because of the work that you're doing and how valuable you are. And so there are those occasions where jobs get created for people. I wouldn't necessarily rely on it, but, it's an intern with an early stage organization is a wild ride.
Yeah, definitely. I love what you're saying about that, about, not, despite you guys not having like maybe the precedence of an internship program, but just still pushing that and wanting to give people that opportunity and help you grow. I love that opportunity. And that's such a cool thing. I actually wanted to see if John Newby wanted to step in. I know that Virginia Bio has been working on some internship development and encouraging internship opportunities in the state and the region. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that work a little bit, John.
Sure, just very quickly, I think we're on the same timeline as Civica as far as having that opportunity, the centralized opportunity for an internship portal. We just received some state funding to stitch together a unified internship portal for this industry. So we're just getting it stood up. It'll be up and running next summer. So more to come on that.
That's awesome. That's so exciting to hear. And that we love, being in this sphere and hearing about all these opportunities and all these ways to find opportunities that are now cropping up across different industries. And so it's great to hear that that's happening here as well. So great. Thank you guys so much so far. Before we transition to questions from the audience, and thank you to everyone who has sent one already, I did want to ask real quick a little bit about maybe your own career paths, how you found your way to both this industry and your role in your company, whether that's, choosing Richmond, coming back to Richmond, and, any kind of, twists and turns along the way. Just real quick, let's see, we can start with maybe Niels, if you wanted to share.
Sure. Thanks for asking. I mean, I think I'm a Virginia native. I went to JMU for undergraduate as a chemist, and I went to UVA as a chemical engineer. So I started my career in California, moved when I was 22 to the West Coast, did some drug development, was in the RX pharma side for a number of years, moved up into the pharmaceutical hub in New Jersey. So I think somebody else alluded earlier that that's where the jobs have historically been. Didn't really like living in either of those places. Got merged over into consumer healthcare and really liked that fast pace, the business acumen that you needed to learn to be able to succeed in the consumer arena. And ended up in Richmond about 8 years ago. Felt like it was coming home. I was closer to family. I think all this stuff about being close to the city, close to the mountains, close to the beach, all resonated with me. I would add, we go to Lake Anna for a couple of weeks every year. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do. It's affordable. It's comfortable. The culture here is distinctly different than it is in the Northeast. And I think it's friendlier. In some ways, it's slower and less intense, but in some ways, it's also more creative and, really like the edginess of Richmond, and the young community really thrives here. The number of places to eat and drink here and socialize here is terrific. So I mean, I got started trying to save lives, and I took a pretty different path, but I've always kind of been interested in developing products, and I love having the ability to apply what I've learned in my education to solve the problems that they get products out onto the market.
Awesome. And Chris, you had a very long bio that I enjoyed reading. I don't know if you wanted to talk about, a little bit about that and your path to where you are now.
I think it's interesting. You never know, what's going to be around the next door. And it's cool to be sitting where you are right now, where anything's possible. I was going to be a journalist in college. I worked with the University of Kansas, was writing sports for the Wichita Eagle, paying my way through school, being a correspondent. So I was published in the biggest paper in the state of Kansas when I was 19, 20 years old, interviewing people. So it was great. Started to take psychology classes, and the psychology professor said, Chris, you ever thought about human resources? And I said, well, no. And he said, well, you're great at interviewing people. You are very passionate about business, and you love to be on teams. And that's kind of what HR does. And so he introduced me to this concept of human resources as a career. And so I've lived in the Bay Area, San Francisco area for 7 years, has lived in Raleigh, North Carolina for 7 years, and now attracting people to Richmond to work and grow their career feels a little bit like the best of both worlds. You're getting almost a Raleigh, North Carolina potential before it happens. And so you're on the ground floor with 4 or 5 companies, but more companies are coming. What the state of Virginia is doing with the Talent Accelerator program to help companies come to Virginia is amazing. They're already attracting people like Amazon, and GSK is doubling down. We're attracted to it, but I think the best is yet to come. And so I think it's an exciting time. But you just never know what opportunity is going to be around the next door. And you're in a great place right now because people are around you seeing your strengths and what you're good at, and they may be steering you in a direction you hadn't anticipated. So it's fun to keep an open mind and see what's possible.
Definitely, definitely. And that's one thing we love talking about is these sort of nonlinear, unexpected ways that you see your career going from an English major to working in life sciences. That's something that I think, the different kinds of opportunities is something that's really, people forget about, like, they don't have to be locked in. So I really enjoy hearing those sorts of stories. And Kipton, if you wanted to talk a little bit about your path.
No, thank you. And I just love hearing stories and about how people get into their careers. And so at Phlow, since we're growing so quickly at Phlow and adding new team members and building trust and getting to know each other, every Monday at our huddle, we have a employee introduction. And so I did mine, I think last week, and it really hit me. I am a fourth generation Virginia entrepreneur. And for the past 25 years, I have worked for entrepreneurs. I've worked with them. I've worked for them. I've worked as an entrepreneur. And it really, I didn't even, until I really sat back and reflected, I've worked for small businesses. I've worked for major companies. And, I have a very high threshold for risk when it comes to my career and making daring, challenging choices. I thrive on it. My husband might disagree because it makes for a more challenging kind of path. But I started off my first big, I guess, major startup. We didn't even have the word startup when I was 22. It was just like, oh, these guys are, have this like company and it's new and they want to sell it. And so I joined them when I was living in Manhattan. I went to the University of Virginia for undergrad. And then, I was naive enough and ambitious enough to think that I could work for myself in Manhattan as a 23-year-old woman. And I did. And I was really successful. And so I worked for real estate developers. I represented sellers and buyers in the Manhattan real estate market. And, quickly became the top 10% of real estate brokers in the country. And I was very good at my job. But then I got into value alignment. And so I was out of value alignment and I didn't feel, I was serving my customers, but I knew I could be of greater service. And so, a little over a decade ago, I started working at the University of Virginia. So my only kind of corporate experience was for a state institution at the University of Virginia. And I had great mentorship there. And we launched a beautiful kind of employee wellness program out of human resources. I worked in benefits and it was a beautiful thing. And then past that, I got my MBA. The way I got to Phlow during my MBA, which was such a valuable experience that, one of the best things I've ever done. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And a speaker came in just like this. And so there was a panel, there was a speaker, and I really connected with what the person had to say. And so after the panel, I went up and introduced myself. I asked them to coffee. They worked for a venture capital firm in Richmond. I drove to Richmond from Williamsburg to have that coffee. I, went that extra mile. And I started working with the venture capital firm on a project during my MBA. And there I met Bob Mooney, who was one of the founders of the venture capital firm. And he became a dear friend and mentor of mine. And so I would say Bob is kind of the third mystery co-founder of Phlow. He had been working with Eric and Frank. And September of 2019, Bob said, come down to the NRV office. And I had done some work for Eric's prior company, Kaleo, in my consulting business. And, I was introduced to the concept of Phlow, and I was, trying to build a guarantee bank, which is a new type of impact investing instrument. And I thought, I can't quit my job and go work for them now. I have to launch this new financial instrument. I was very focused. But it ended up working out. And so Bob's our chief financial officer, and I work with him every day now. And so it's, be brave, go shake that hand, ask for the coffee, ask for the meeting. People will make time for you. And I would just say be brave and be bold and go for it. But I have a high risk threshold.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's great to hear. And I love that. Yeah, love that perspective a lot. We have a few questions from the audience, some great questions. Thank you, everyone. And we have a few that center around recruitment, which is great. We have one that's asking about which Virginia schools you have sort of the strong recruiting relationships with. And then somebody else asked how you could work with high school recruiting and high schoolers to recruit those students and those opportunities. So that's sort of a two-part question if anybody wants to jump in there. Maybe Niels, if you or
I'll
Kitten,
go.
you go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So I would say I think about the high school thing a lot. And my friends at NRV partnered with TJ, the magnet school, Thomas Jefferson. No, it wasn't TJ. Maggie Walker, and have found students from there to work with. I think that's kind of the next frontier for us. Right now, we work closely with William and Mary. We're developing a relationship with Virginia State. Chris actually introduced me to the Community College Network. We've started conversations with them. I would say at this point, we are school agnostic, but are willing, we'd love to talk to everyone. So we don't have, formal relationships in place. And, if anyone has any ideas on how we can start working with high school students, I think that we might have some opportunities for work for high school students in the future. And that's something we'd like to explore.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think we have a couple programs. One, the state of Virginia has a big career fair at the Raceway every year. We always have a booth there, and they bus people from all over the state of Virginia that are interested in careers and sciences. So that's part of our outreach to the high school community. We also have a kind of select program to pull financially disadvantaged people from the Richmond community in internships to give them some life experience and get them prepared to become workers. With regard to colleges, I mean, we have a very strong relationship with VCU. I've personally taught some classes in their pharmaceutical sciences, as have many people at the Richmond site here. But we recruit from all the major schools in Virginia, particularly those that have a solid science and engineering background. So I think, we have booths at a lot of job fairs from there. GSK is going to be a new name, but the Pfizer name should be in people's mind that have gone to these fairs in the past.
Certainly, yeah. And Chris, anything to add there?
I'd kind of take it a little different angle. I think I'd probably provide just maybe things to think about when you start the interview process with companies. The first, especially in life sciences, we're all in this for patient impact. So knowing specifically where the company is, doing your research and knowing, and then going into the interview and just know the person who's interviewing you is hoping this is worth my time. That this is, I'm hoping every time I interview something that this is a good use of my time. And so you're getting this opportunity to come in and tell your story and be proud of what you've done and accomplished. And, most people, you could Google this, Google STAR behavioral interviewing. Basically, every HR person is well-versed in, okay, what was the situation? What was the approach? What were the tasks they did? What did they overcome? What's the result? Did they do it? Are they innovative? Are they creative? Basically, those are the things. So you go in, you want to have 4 or 5 stories of you doing that, right? And being able to logically think about it and unpack it. And those stories can be answers to a myriad of questions that are asked, but having those ready and being able to really be passionate about what the company does and want to be part of that. That's probably just might be helpful as you're getting ready to start the interview process.
I would just add on to that, Chris. We actually had a discussion with our executives. It was almost like a cartoon example. I had 2 candidate interviews one day. One of them was incredibly strong on, I always start off the interview. I'm giving you a sneak peek. I always say, why are you interested in Phlow? And that shows me if they've done their research, if they are mission focused, if they have, if they're in alignment with what we're doing, if they're here, why are they here? Why are they in this interview with me right now? And it shows a lot. And so I had one individual who was, 100% culture mission focused. Technical skills were lacking. Then I had, complete opposite. I had someone who expressed zero interest in the mission, zero interest in, the culture, but was self-professed the top 5% in the world at what he does. And I brought that to the executive committee and I said, these are two polar opposite examples. What are we looking for as an organization? And they said, we want both. We want someone who's culture mission focused, who would add to our culture. We're not looking for cultural fit. We're looking for additions to the culture, who also have the technical skills and capabilities to do their job. So they're not getting through you're not going to get through if you don't have the technical skills and capabilities. So just to add on to what Chris said, we're trying to get to know you. And we had such a compliment this week. We have a no jerk rule at Phlow, and we have a really kind team who's mission focused. And I had a note from one of our vendor providers, and they said, the employees at Phlow are so sweet. And I just thought, sweet. People don't use that word very often. And I would hope that everyone's kind of kind in their life. But what I'm looking for when I leave that conversation and that interview, I want someone who wants to do a really good job. And if I can see that and feel that come across, then they get a pass from me to go to the next level.
That is awesome advice for sure. Before we wrap up, we got a couple more quick questions. One is what's the best way to find opportunities that are coming up at your companies, whether that's an online resource, just your website, or if there's any other ways to stay connected with you guys.
Perfect. I'll start. I mean, we do a lot on LinkedIn. You can follow us at GSK on LinkedIn. All of our openings are posted there. We use Indeed a lot as well. We hire directly, us.gsk.com. You can not only find out what opportunities are available, you can find out more about us. And, we're a terrific place to work. We're hiring. We are highly diverse and inclusive. The culture is great, and it's a great place to work with good growth opportunities.
I would just echo, follow us on LinkedIn. We do try to have a philosophy at Phlow of the position before the person. We are, we talk about it all the time, but we have really talented, gifted people knocking down our door every single day. And if it were up to us, we would hire every single one of them. But at this time we can't. we have constraints and budgets. And so, when positions pop up and you think you're aligned for them, go for it. And, work on that cover letter, see if you can make a connection within the organization that can advocate for you and speak to your competency.
I would say there's probably in your career, so fast forward in your career and let's go to retirement, right? Just let's go 50 years right away. When you go back and look, 70% of the jobs you will have had will come from your network without fail. So how do you develop your network, right? You go to hear people talk, you follow up, you send a notes, you add them to your LinkedIn network, you broaden your network out. And that's what you do. And so you've got to get over the whole shyness thing, or I'm an introvert, and you've got to say, the science industry is full of introverts that are connected in my network, right? And so you just need to know that if you can embrace that and understand, that's going to be how you get in your career, 70% of your positions. That's going to be helpful as you start off and you be comfortable with that.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, again, I like that sort of, it's great to make those connections, even if there is not a position that you see available. Make sure that you're making those connections and doing the best you can to prep for when you can launch yourself into the career. So we are just almost at 1 o'clock. I want to thank everyone so much for attending, both the panelists and our attendees, and John Newby for introducing us today. We really appreciate it. I'm going to share our Contact Us screen again. As Beth mentioned in the chat, students can check out rvanow.org for our regional job board that will help you connect to these opportunities when they arise. So it's definitely a one-stop shop for that. And definitely stay connected with RVA Now, with our, with those things, with our newsletter, And we'll follow up with, again, that resource with more data about hiring trends and what opportunities are available. And again, just thank you so much. We wish you luck with, if you have anything left in your semester, any exams or anything, good luck, and good luck if you have any internships this summer. We really wish you the best of luck. And thank you all so much. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions for us.
Thank you, Allison. Have
Thank
a
you
great
so
day.
much.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.